Hello, this is Chris Perguidi, and we're here on the Lizard Zone, and I'm here with author David Rengers. So David, can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I am an artist and an author and a composer. I love classical music. I've done a little taekwondo in my time, but really what I am is a teacher. I teach second grade, but in 2008, I published my first ever debut novel, Ring Dragons, and I'm just really excited about it.
So what is the Ring Dragons about?
What is Ring Dragons about? Well, it's a very unique take on dragon fantasy. Let me give you a little synopsis, basically, of how it is. You got the three boys, all right? Their names Walsh, Henry, and Peter, and they're fifth grade boys. And they go to Hong Kong on this once-in-a-lifetime experience where they're going to get to do a robotics tournament with all kinds of other countries and nationalities represented. But when they're there, what happens is Henry has an older sister, it's like 15 years old. Her name is Anne Mai.
Pretty hot.
She's very cute, actually. She's based on my wife. But anyway, she's abducted.
Your wife's 15? What country are you from?
Good gravy. No, she's not 15. But she's based on a 15-year-old image I have of her in my mind. Anyway,
Kind of creepy, but
she is abducted, and the police immediately think that it was an old man that abducted Anne Mai, and they start zeroing in to try to find this guy. And he sneaks in and tries to explain to the boys, everybody's got me all wrong. It's not me that took your sister. It's actually a dragon lives in Hong Kong. And nobody's going to believe this old man except for Henry, Walsh, and Peter. And they have to go through just a whole myriad of just weird creatures, and like there's dog rocks and shadow bats and zombie whales before they can finally reach her and save her. And at the end, the dragon unleashes this great fury all over Hong Kong. And it's a tremendously compelling read.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So what's your favorite book?
My favorite book ever, I think, has to go back to my childhood. I had kind of two favorites. One was Tolkien's The Hobbit. Loved The Hobbit. And I love The Wind in the Willows, the illustrated edition. It's a fantastic book.
I don't think I've ever heard of The Wind in the Willows.
The Wind in the Willows?
No.
You've never been to Disneyland? Mr. Toad, is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And It's got the mole and the rat. It's these little creatures, and they live like a little world, but there's actually humans in this world too. And the last kind of scene is when they try to take back Mr. Toad's mansion, right? And they're there with the badger and everything, and they're like trying to beat down all these weasels and stuff, and they finally conquer and get Mr. Toad's mansion back. But it's an awesome story. Fantastic.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
I'm sorry, I'll send you a copy.
I don't really read. So what are your influences?
I love Tolkien, but I'm more filmically influenced. I grew up doing more movies than anything. I love Star Wars and George Lucas and Spielberg's films, like Indiana Jones. I love that stuff. And then that makes me in the minority of people. But I also love G.I. Joe. There's a movie coming out, G.I. Joe. I love Transformers. I loved those as a kid, and I had whole collections of them. And I would just put them all over my floor and reenact battles and stuff like that. And eventually, you grow out of that. And I was 25. It was time for me to stop doing that. So I got married and put my toys away.
That sucks. So what did you think of the new Transformers movie?
I haven't seen the new one, the Revenge of the Fallen. Is that what it was?
Revenge of the Fallen.
Haven't seen that one. The reviews I heard were, but
what about the other new one, the one that they did before?
Oh, right,
not the 80s one, but
yeah, I remember the 80s one. The animated one.
The animated one.
The first one I thought was really good. I mean, I went with my little brother-in-law, Emmanuel, and he's like 17. It was right up his alley because it's a young boy, gets his first car, but his car's a robot, and there's all these killer robots attacking, and he has to save the world. So it was, I enjoyed that, and he enjoyed it. So it was kind of like we had this kind of, bonding experience. But it was a good film. It was solid.
I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
The G.I. Joe movie looks like it's going to suck.
I have a feeling you might be right. Yeah. I want it to be good. I love G.I. Joe, and I love, by the way, do you know who's playing Snake Eyes in the movie?
No, actually.
Ray Park. What, you don't? Oh, come on. Ray Park was Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace, and he also played a character in the X-Men movie, which I can't remember. It was like the Toad or something like that. So he's playing Snake Eyes. And I love those characters, Storm Shadow.
Snake Eyes is my favorite G.I. Joe.
He's got to be at the top of it. I love Zartan, Destro, all the Cobra guys.
Zartan's not going to be in it. What's up with that?
He's going to be in it. They've got a Zartan toy, then they're definitely going to have a Zartan.
I didn't see a Zartan toy.
I bought it. No, I
Bought
didn't.
it? Did you buy it?
It went with
Is
my
it good?
collection. No, I did.
How is it? Is it really opposable?
It's actually, no. The original Zartan toy I did have, it was like my favorite toy because it changed colors.
Yeah. I used to have him. He'd always get stuck one color though when you had him for a long time. He turned green and then stayed that way.
Yeah, the
And then he
plastic
never
sort
came
of
back.
molted or whatever.
Became melted. It was not good. So, what's your most memorable childhood experience? Speaking of childhood things like G.I. Joe.
Yeah. Well, it's not based on any movie or anything. The one that stands out for me, honestly, was a 1 year period where I was close to 5th grade, I think, and my grandfather was dying, my grandpa Stolman, and he had cancer. And my grandpa really kind of took care of me in a lot of respects in a way that my dad wasn't able to. And we moved to Truckee, and Truckee is just kind of near Lake Tahoe, full of snow, really heavy snow that particular year. And he knew I was having a hard time because my parents were getting divorced. My grandfather knew that I was having trouble in school, and we were just going through a really rough time financially. And he wanted to help me, but he was dying of cancer, and he didn't really know what to do. He couldn't go visit me and that kind of thing. So you know what he did? He bought me a sled, and I'm sorry, he didn't buy this sled. He got this sled from his garage. He had this garage full of like machinery and auto parts, and he was a mechanic. But he got this sled, and it was like from Rosebud, you know, from the movie.
I was gonna say, it sounds like Orson Welles.
This old style thing with the metal sleighs, and it was like wooden, and it's like you could steer it in the front. And that was like his gift to me because he knew I was living in the snow. He wanted to cheer me up. And when I got it, I just was like, I didn't really know. It was like, okay, I don't even know what this is because it was so antiquated. But at that time, the Boy Scouts were doing this big tobogganing thing kind of thing where you go in the snow and you just go downhill through the snow and all the boys get together and they race and stuff like that. And why that was kind of hard for me was because everybody went with their dad. All right, so all the Boy Scouts are there with their dads, and they've got all the new stuff. They've got this like plastic polymer from NASA, and it's all yellow and red flames, and it's like it was these amazing rocket-looking type sleds and toboggans. And here I am with this thing from like 1920, the Rosebud sled, and I had no dad, and they were just like, all right, we're gonna do this. And so we went up to the top of the hill for this race, and I remember getting on my sled and seeing all these other guys with their amazing sleds and kind of looking over the hillside, way down there is the end of the run where the snowbank is, and just kind of going off the snow. And that thing, I don't know if anybody ever knows anything about snow, but metal rails cut through snow like knife through butter, and it was just a rocket. It was a zoom. All the other guys are just like, they were just left in the dust and like piling off on the side. And it's like the modern technology couldn't even touch this old technology. And so I won that thing by like 2 lengths. I was going so fast that the sled impacted because I didn't know how to stop it. And I just went flying in. My face went stuck in the snow, and I'm pulling it out. It's all red. And I'm like crying. I'm like, and everybody was coming running around me, and they're just like, you what? You can't even believe it. And I remember hearing some of the kids telling their dads, where do I get a sled like that? It just made me feel really good. And my grandfather passed away, shortly thereafter. And I always remembered that time and that experience really kind of developed something in me character-wise. So that really stands out for me in my early childhood. More than G.I. Joe and even Transformers.
It's a good story. Good story, David.
Thank you.
I don't know how to segue from that. Let's see.
Well, we can always edit those parts.
It's true.